Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, the head of South Africa's EFF opposition party, along with 5 other members, face suspension without pay. They've been found guilty of contempt for storming the stage of the 2023 State of the Nation address earlier this year. Also, the effects of climate change are being felt across Africa's conservation areas. In Zimbabwe, dozens of volunteers are working around the clock trying to assess the effects of extreme drought on wildlife. And in the spotlight, but not in the money, social media stars in Senegal find it tough to make a living, but one new platform is trying to help them get paid for their creativity. We take a closer look with our correspondent on the ground. But first, in South Africa, the leader of the leftist opposition party, the Economic Freedom Fighters, and 5 other members face suspension without pay after being found guilty of contempt of Parliament. Julius Malema and the other EFF members face sanctions by Parliament after having stormed onto stage in protest during the State of Nation address earlier this year. Julius Malema tells us more.
The far-left EFF party leader Julius Malema and his deputy president Floyd Chavambu, together with 4 other EFF members, were found guilty of contempt of Parliament. The members appeared before the Power and Privileges Committee on Monday for their behaviour during the State of the Nation address in February. The members were ordered to leave the chamber, but instead stormed the stage on which the president, Cyril Ramaphosa, was seated. The EFF maintained their innocence on Monday when they appeared before the committee. However, the seriousness of the event played a role in the proposed sanctions against the members. The committee, mainly made up of ANC members, suggested that the members be suspended for a month without any payment and should apologise to the president, the nation and South Africans. Now, it follows days after the ANC and EFF were in solidarity to vote in favour of closing down the Israeli embassy in South Africa. The sanctions will be now compiled in a report and sent to the National Assembly for further consideration.
Julius Malema there for us. Look now at some news in brief. The body of one of 2 Tanzanians reported as having been taken hostage by Hamas in Israel during the October 7th attack is due to arrive back home on Friday. Clemens Matenga was studying agriculture and was in Israel as part of his course when the kibbutz where he was staying was targeted by Palestinian armed extremists. Israel hasn't said how he died. The raid left more than 1,200 dead and more than 200 were taken hostage. Fellow Tanzanian student Joshua Molel is also believed to have been abducted. Kenya is preparing to privatise 35 companies in a bid to boost productivity and the economy overall. The move follows a change in the law that makes it easier to put state enterprises up for sale and to encourage more private sector investment. Nairobi is struggling with rocketing inflation and currency depreciation. This month, the International Monetary Fund urged the country to reform state utilities as it agreed to an over €860 million loan. And Niger's military ruler headed to Mali on Thursday on his first international visit since seizing power in July. General Abdurrahman Tiani met with his counterpart, Colonel Assimi Goïta, and thanked his neighbours, including Burkina Faso, for their solidarity after all 3 nations were hit with sanctions following their respective military coups. The Sahel trio also signed a mutual defence pact in September. Now, the effects of climate change are being felt across Africa's conservation areas. Ever longer dry spells and climbing temperatures have led to the loss of plants and animals. In southeastern Zimbabwe, 140 volunteers have been working around the clock to try and assess the effects of the drought on wildlife there. Clarice Fortuné tells us more.
Barely hidden on a view deck, this volunteer is counting one by one the number of baboons at the Gonarezu National Park.
In total 40.
He's among the hundreds of volunteers conducting a 24-hour annual wildlife census. We're trying to assess the nation's resources status. Shattered trunks of baobab and acacia trees are evidence of desperate animals searching for food and water in a 5,000 square kilometer park, like this box.
The issue of climate change needs to be taken seriously because the irregular patterns and the shifting of seasons. So these things definitely affect our animals because you'd see that the animals will be moving long distances in search of water. And while they're moving, they'll be, of course, getting into communities, clashing with villagers. In some cases, it's fatal.
The dry spells are becoming longer and more severe in Zimbabwe. Birds are among the victims. They need trees for breeding, but hungry herbivores like elephants and giraffes leave little behind. But this census volunteer managed to get a glimpse of a few birds.
It was quite an experience because we've never done it before, and they gave us Salema gorge to count. We sat in the height. There was quite a bit of birds because it's a very rocky area. So beautiful, quite a few birds.
Many people living close to national parks like this one were already struggling to put food on the table. With the drought, they now have to clash with animals competing for food and water.
Now, this weekend, a campaign of over 2 weeks will begin to push for more awareness and action to combat violence against women. In Cameroon, over half of all women have suffered emotional or sexual abuse, and a new film's just been released to encourage more victims to speak up. Our team tells us more.
Music as therapy, Cameroonian artist Fine rehearses with her group at a studio in Yaoundé. She sings the title Sauve qui peut in French, translated in English as Save Yourself. The track has recently been released as a single and is rooted in painful memories from her own past.
I was abused for 5 years. I didn't talk about it because it's very hard for victims to speak out. It's only through music that I was able to express myself.
Fine is amongst 54% of Cameroonian women estimated to be victims of domestic or sexual violence. The Association to Combat Violence Against Women has been researching and documenting such cases in Cameroon.
Let's talk about our plan.
Today, Ms. Manga chairs a meeting ahead of the launch of an anti-domestic violence campaign. ALVF has been operating since 1991. It's represented in half of Cameroon's 10 regions, helping women and victims of domestic violence. Staff say the figures just keep rising and victims come from all kinds of backgrounds.
There is no typical profile, but the women who are most exposed are the women who are not financially independent and women who are the least educated.
A few kilometers away, stars like Yannick Noah and other big names in cinema, sports and Cameroonian culture attend the official release of the film Alert. The 120-minute feature aims to raise awareness about domestic violence.
The reality is that the women do not speak. They keep it all in or die. They have psychological scars and mental health issues. What can we do to help? We show solutions in the film.
Globally, an estimated 1 in 3 women is a victim of violence. The abuse is sometimes fatal. ALVF has estimated that in Cameroon there have been at least 54 cases of femicide recorded this year alone.
Well, social media stars in Senegal often find it tough to make a living. As in many other African countries, and unlike in Europe or the US, digital content creators on platforms like Facebook and TikTok often don't receive payment for their clips, even when they go viral. But a new platform set up by an entrepreneur in Senegal is trying to help local internet sensations get paid, finally, for their creativity. Our team tells us more.
Abu Blowing is a Senegalese content creator known for his pranks and musical parodies. He has amassed 1.6 million followers on TikTok. Since 2020, he has devoted all his time to making viral social media clips, but with little financial reward.
We don't always earn money from it. It's not easy. Sometimes you spend a lot of money on a video and you don't cover your costs. It's tricky, but we can just about manage to get by.
Abu has recently joined an agency trying to help content creators achieve financial stability. It's the brainchild of Moman Ndiaye, a 35-year-old entrepreneur with around 30 influencers on his books. Sen Influenceur makes money by connecting creators with companies looking for more visibility for their brands. The agency typically charges between €150 to €1,200 per video.
There are different kinds of influencers: micro-influencers, nano-influencers, and macro-influencers. To work with macro-influencers, brands have to spend larger budgets. We aim to collaborate with the very best influencers, those with a good image and who are known to the wider public.
55% of the Senegalese population has internet access, and online influencers are becoming increasingly popular. A structured business model can help them make the most of their work.
I think that these platforms should be further developed in order to push influencers to better understand how to operate sustainably. It's easy to make a video and automatically get a lot of views, but without management, they can quickly lose themselves.
As Senegal's digital economy grows more robust, there are also calls for more state support and regulation of social media.
Well, that's it for Eye on Africa for now. Thanks for joining us, though, and do so again if you can. Till then, take care.